Awesome. All right. Oh, very nice. Okay, so welcome to the week. What week are we in? Week 4, I think. Week 4 online live learning session. It's February 20th for the CIS120DF Photoshop Level 1 class. And so tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the assignment practice 4, which focuses mostly on selections and a little bit about layers. So this assignment, which is due Saturday, is a follow-up to what you did in the chapter 3 assignment in the textbook. And it's all about using different selection tools. And what I want to focus on is the selection tools. You can make selections of pixels, right? So it's all about when you have an image in Photoshop, you want to select something and then modify that, right? You're going to select a certain area of the image and change it somehow. And so learning to make precise selections is a skill that takes time and practice, but it's one of the most important skills. Learning how to make precise selections, and understanding layers and having good layer management, those are the two most important things that you're going to walk away from in this class. And you do that with every single assignment. So the selection tools we're going to work with tonight, you can make selections based on shape. So a circle, a square, I can draw an outline around something, or you can actually make selections based on color. And so we're going to do that towards the end, and it's really cool. And, you know, with just a few clicks of a button, you'll be able to select something that looks impossible to select and change it. And so then just, you know, when, you know, like a toolbox full of tools, you have all these different selection tools, knowing which ones to use and when to use them. And many times you might use a combination of them. You can't always just use one tool for everything. So I'm going to take you through this lesson tonight. Let me share my screen. So I'm going to move this. And share my screen. All right. So can you guys see? You should see Photoshop on the left, and you should see the assignment on the right. Okay, good. And Kurt, I see you're muted. So I have two monitors here, so I'll just keep looking back and forth. If you have a question, you can go ahead and type it, or just unmute and pipe right in. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So over here on the right, I have the assignment instruction, and I know my the window is kind of narrow, but I do want to point out that, so this is the assignment I'm working on tonight, assignment practice 4. And then if you're doing it along with me, so Kurt, you'll do it along with me. Once you turn it in, you're good to go. And then the next assignment, so you actually have two things to do this weekend. You have this practice, and then you have the selection practice. This is another assignment that follows up, and it's actually very similar to what I'm going to do tonight. And so you just get another chance to make selections and rearrange things. Okay, so you're going to get a lot of practice with selections. All right, so I've already downloaded the start file, so I'm just going to go ahead and resave it real quick. And if I skip a step, please stop me, because sometimes I tend to skip things. All right, so I'm just going to resave this with my name. And I'm going to click OK to maximize compatibility. I'm not going to reset my workspace. I always put that in there just, you know, to make it similar to how the textbook works, but I just like how my environment is set up. All right. So first of all, I have layers over here. So we have this file, and I gave you this file to begin with, and you can see there's two different layers in the file, and I've already pre-named them for you. And the eyeballs, they allow you to turn the visibility of the layer on and off. So right now, this layer, practice layer 1, that's the one that is selected. That's the one that's active. That's the one I'm going to work on. If I turn this eyeball off, I still have layer 1 selected, right? I can't do anything to these blue flowers until I actually select that layer, all right? And something that's not in the lesson, yes, so see how there's an eyeball here? And you can kind of see the little preview, right? Okay, but if I turn this one on top, and we're going to do more with layers next week, you can think of layers as sometimes clear sheets of transparency, sometimes colored sheets. The practice layer 1 has a bunch of pixels already filled in. That's why I can't see the blue flowers unless I turn the visibility off. Then I can see that other layer below. To modify it, I actually have to select that layer, and then this layer is active, and I can use different tools and do different things to that layer. Just so you guys know, if you have a layer selected and you click in this blank area down here, that actually deselects all the layers if you needed to do something like that. That's not in the lesson, but I'm just pointing that out. It's like bonus learning. All right. So do you see how I have practice layer 1 selected? If I just click in this gray area here, do you see how that layer is now deselected? Correct. So if I click in this area, nothing is selected. Correct. All right. Here's another thing that you can do. In terms of layer management and understanding, obviously giving very descriptive names to your layers is super important. You can also color code your layers. It's super easy to do that. You can just right click on the layer and then choose a color. I could choose orange, and do you see how it fills this with orange? And I could right click on this and choose this one to be violet. You see how it changes the color, right? It's just color coding. It's just making it easier for you to see what's going on. All right. All right, so we are on practice layer 1. So what we're going to do, and just so you can see up here, we're going to kind of make this version of the file. We're going to take all these pieces over here, cut them out, and place them on top of the plate. Okay, and so we're going to cut them out using different selection tools. All right, so we have the practice layer 1 as selected. So because my monitor is kind of squished, I'm going to hide things briefly. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the quick selection tool. So you have your selection tools over here in the tools panel. Whoops. Sure, go right ahead. That is my working layer. I just didn't call it working layer. Okay, you can call it anything you want. Correct. Exactly. Well, you don't have to call it working layer. You could call it anything you want. I just called it working layer in the past. Yes, I could drag, a way to make a duplicate is I could drag it over this new layer icon. I've made a copy of it. And then yes, I would have the original preserved. Absolutely. I'm not going to do that today. We've done that in the past. I'm just not doing it in this assignment. Yep. Good question. Not in this particular assignment. In other upcoming assignments, you'll want to duplicate the layers. We're just not doing it today. That's all. Okay. All right, so we have these selection tools up here. Well, you have the move tool, but so right up here to the right of the move tool, you have your marquee. And if you click and hold, you'll see there's actually some different marquee tools. You have rectangular, elliptical, and then this is a single row and single pixel column, right? If you want to draw like a thin line or something like that. And then you have the lasso tools. Okay, these are going to allow you to freehand draw. And we're going to go through these later on in the lesson. So the marquee tools and the lasso tools allow you to create selections based on shapes. So circles and squares and things like that, or just weird shapes, right? But then you also have over here, you have what's called, object selection tool is new to this new version of Photoshop, but we're going to focus on the quick selection and the magic wand. These two tools will make selections based on color, okay, or edges. So I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to choose the quick selection tool. And I want to make it a brush size up here of 50 pixels. So this tool works like the end of a brush, okay? And I'm going to set the hardness to 100, so that's like a solid round edge, okay? And you do have these other options up here, creating a new selection or adding to the selection or subtracting. I'm just going to go ahead and put it back on the making a new selection. And then I'm going to zoom in to this sand dollar down here, okay? And by the way, do you see how my picture is half cut off? Right now the zoom tool is active. If I press the space bar, that activates the hand tool, and I can kind of move my image. I can let go of the space bar and the zoom tool becomes active again. So you can switch between tools using some keyboard shortcuts. So the space bar allows you to move around your image, and I've shown that before, and that's one I use all the time. So I want to select this sand dollar. And the quick selection tool is really cool because I'm going to go back and turn it back on again. What it is it allows it to find an edge. Like it doesn't, the tool doesn't see a sand dollar in white. It just sees off-white pixels and white pixels. It sees a hard edge between this white background. So what I can do is I can just click and drag a little bit. And do you see how it automatically selected the whole sand dollar? Because that's, the tool works in the way that it's looking for this hard edge. And so it went ahead and it made a selection. And I know it's a selection because I have these, what we call marching ants, or these flickering dots. You guys with me? All right, cool beans. Okay, so I've made the selection. So this is the active piece of the image. So now I'm going to zoom out. So I'm going to click my hand tool, right? And then I'm going to, so it's selected. It's an active selection. I'm going to now, yep, that's an easy way to zoom out and fit your whole picture to the window. Yep. And so now I'm going to pick the move tool, this 4-way arrow, right? Now that the move tool is active, whatever is selected, I want to make sure I know where I'm putting it because it matches, right? I can come in here with my move tool, right? And do you see how it actually looks like a scissors? If I come out here, if I'm off the selection, it would allow me to move the image. But if I click inside the area that's active, click, hold, and drag, it's going to allow me to pull those pixels and place them somewhere else on this layer. See how I did that? Okay, so now this is still active, right? So whatever is inside these marching ants, this is still active. So if I were to do something else, it's going to happen probably within this selected area. So when you're done working with a selection, you want to turn it off. And you can do that by going to Select, Deselect, or I actually just use Control and the letter D as in dog, or Command D if you're on the Mac, and that turns off the selection. Once I've done that, these pixels live here. Okay, it's now part of the picture. I would if I selected it again, it would actually cut a hole right here, but I can move it somewhere else. And do you see how there actually is a hole right here in my picture? What I've done is, because I've moved these pixels, I've actually, right here, do you see this hole at the bottom? Do you see the blue flow? Right? You're actually looking through the practice 1 layer into the practice 2 layer. You can now see, you can see the picture below, right? Because I've actually cut those pixels away. So if that can be sometimes bothersome or annoying. So what you could do is I could turn the eyeball off of the practice 2 layer. And do you see how the flowers went away and I just have this checkerboard? Whenever you see the checkerboard, that means no pixels. There's nothing there. That's empty. Okay, there's nothing in the document or on this, on that. No, there is another layer, practice 2 layer, but it's not turned on. So since I have it turned off, there's just this 1 layer is active, and then there's just nothing underneath it. So, all right, I'm going to save my file. All right, and we're going to move on over. So the quick selection tool allows you to make, it's an edge based, it's based on color and edges. And so if you have something that's kind of a solid color with a solid, a really defined edge, that quick selection tool is a nice way to make a fast selection. Okay, so moving along, now we're going to do the marquee selection. So marquee is good for rectangular marquee and elliptical marquee. I'm going to choose the elliptical. That's really good if you have something that looks like a circle, right? So this is kind of looks like an oval over here. So I'm actually going to zoom in to my plate of seashells, right? Okay. And I'm going to click the elliptical marquee. So now I want to select just this, right? And I could use that quick selection tool because it does have this kind of refined, this sharp edge against the white background, but obviously I'm here to teach you how to use the tools. So I'm going to actually use the elliptical marquee. So if I just place my cursor in the upper left corner, you'll see I have a crosshairs. I can just left click, hold, and I can just start dragging, right? Now I'm dragging and I'm making a selection, but you can see that this oval is not fit on top of my picture, right? I actually need to move that selection into place. I'm going to turn that off, Control D. So what you can do is I'm left click, I'm holding and dragging. I haven't let go of the mouse, right? And I'm drawing this selection. Now if at the same time I hold the space bar down, that's allowing me to move my selection, right? I I'm letting go of the space bar, and I can draw more of the selection. Hold the space bar down, move it. Do you see I'm kind of shaping, holding the space bar, moving, and I'm shaping that selection. Now I'm letting go of the mouse, and you can see I got a pretty good selection. Do you want me to do that again? Okay. Right. So I want to draw, right? So I want to draw a circle, or I want to draw an oval around this, right? But I have to kind of guess where it is. So I can start drawing it, right? I can click, hold, and drag. Okay. But I know that they're not lined up. So in order to line it up, if I hold the space bar down while I still have the mouse pressed, I haven't let go of the mouse, right? I'm holding the space bar. I can move what I've created. I still have the mouse down. I can let go of the space bar. I still have the mouse pulled down. I'm now dragging and making the selection bigger. I'm holding the space bar down, moving that selection into place, right? I'm right-handed, so I'm going to work from the left. Letting go of the space bar, dragging in a little bit, hold the space bar down. I can really just kind of eyeball it to the inside, right? Now I'm letting go of the mouse, and now I've completed drawing that selection. Correct. Yes. But you have to do it while you have the mouse pressed down. So you're using the mouse and the keyboard at the same time. So it takes a little bit of practice. All right. So now, so I would say, okay, that looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? this is just for practice. I've selected most of that circle, so I'm going to go ahead and double click the hand tool to zoom out. You can still see I have an active selection, right? I'm going to choose my move tool. And now I'm going to literally move those pixels that represent this plate, or these shells, to the upper left corner of that plate. Let's see if it looks, yeah, that's kind of where I want it, right? While it's still an active selection, I can kind of move this around. Okay. And you can see there's a little bit of the edge left over here, but that's okay. We're going to get rid of this here later on. All right, so I'm going to deselect, Control D. That gets rid of that. And I'm now, I'm cutting out pieces of the picture and moving them around the layer. So really, you're just cutting out, you're selecting pixels and moving them somewhere else. Make sense, Kurt? Okay, cool. All right. And everything I'm explaining in the video, I write it out here in, in each of these steps. So everything I'm talking about in the video, it's also in these instructions as well. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is now we're going to do Sally's seashells. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in to Sally's seashells. Right, I'm holding the space bar down to move that. And I'm going to use, now again, this clearly it's a perfect circle, right? The last shape was more of an oval, but this is a perfect circle. So I could use the elliptical marquee again. I could also use the quick select because I do have this like defined edge, but I'm just showing how the different tools work. So I know that if I start drawing my circle, right, and I can hold the space bar down, right, I can continue to move it, right? Okay. But if I know that this is a perfect circle, I could actually hold the shift key down. Okay, so I haven't clicked anything on my mouse. If I start with the shift key and now click, I actually get a perfect circle, right? Now I have the shift key. If I let go of the shift key, you see how it's a weird oval, but if I press the shift, it automatically constrains the proportion. So that's how you get a perfect circle or a perfect square. And then I'm holding the shift. Now I'm holding the space bar. Space bar allows me to move the selection while I'm still drawing it, right? Right, space bar, right? Okay, I'm still holding the shift key down. Still eyeballing it, right? Now I let go of the mouse first, and then I can let go of the keyboard. And you can see I got a pretty good circle here, right? I'm going to turn this selection off. I'm going to do it one more time. So this one's a little bit difficult. I'm going to actually hold 3 keys down on the keyboard, right? So if I hold down the Shift key, I know that's letting me draw a perfect circle. If I also hold the Alt key, that's going to allow me to draw my, Control Z. Sorry, hold the, oh, I was pressing the Control key, my bad. Hold the Alt key down and the Shift key. The Alt key actually lets you draw from the center, right? So the Alt key actually lets me draw from the center, and now I have the space bar. So this one's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to eyeball that. So I am letting go of the space bar. I have the Alt and the Shift key pressed. I'm holding space bar to move my selection around, really get it where I want, right? Let go of space bar. I still have the Shift and Alt down. I can pull drag it out a little bit, make it bigger. Hold the space bar down. Like right now, I literally, it's like I'm playing the piano. I have my left hand is holding down the Shift key, the Alt key, and the space bar, and with my right hand, I'm moving the mouse, right? I let go of the mouse first, and then I let go of the keys. And it didn't like that. It dinged at me, right? So there we go. There's that selection. You know, and I would tell you, I would probably just use the quick selection tool to do this. That's a lot easier to use to make the selection. But remember, I'm here to teach you how different tools work. So that's why I'm demonstrating how to select this using the keyboard and the elliptical marquee tool. All right. And if you read my instructions, I make funny jokes. Don't let go of the mouse or you will destroy the planet. Just kidding. You can always repeat these steps over and over again in practice. But again, if you can't get, if you can't get it using the elliptical marquee, then use a different tool. Use something that works for you, right? This is just practice. In the end, I'm not going to know how you achieve the end result. You just want to be able to use the tools differently to achieve that end result. I'm giving you a lot of different options. All right, so let's see, what are we going to do? All right, so the next thing I'm going to zoom out. All right, and we're going to choose the move tool, and I'm going to move Sally's seashells over here. Now, I'm not going to turn the selection off yet. I'm going to show you how you can actually change things, because this area is what's selected. This is the active area on this practice one layer. I'm now going to change the color. I'm going to invert it, right? So I can do something up here. I can go to Image, Adjustments, Invert, and you'll see it changed it to blue. And actually what it did was it applied a mathematical formula where it took every color and it switched it to its opposite color. So basically on the color wheel, that's what it did. So it's an easy way to change the color, okay? So that's one change we did. While it's still active, while I still have the marching ants going, I can also duplicate it. So while this, with the move tool selected, if I hold the Alt key down, do you see how the cursor is changing to a double-headed arrow? Right now, I don't have the Alt key. If I were to do anything, I'm moving it. And actually, do you see how when I moved it, it made a hole? Control Z. I don't like that. I'm not going to do that. But that's what this would do. If I just use the move tool, I'm moving again. But if I hold the Alt key down, that actually allows me to make a duplicate of that selected area. Did you see how I did that? Absolutely. There's about 6 different ways to change the colors. I just showed more than 6. There's tons. I just showed you one quick little thing that you could do. Okay. All right. So while this second circle is selected, I can actually also make it bigger. I can come up here to Edit, Transform, Scale, and I've got the sizing handles. And so you can see up here, here's the option bar. This is going to allow me to scale things. I could actually scale it up 150, press tab, 150, right? That's twice as big. I can move it around. Okay, still active, right? And then if I press enter or click the commit button, that sets that shape there. It's still an active selection. So if I hold the Alt key down again, I can make another duplicate, right? So you can easily that's what you were doing with the screws in the chapter assignment. And I can come up here to edit, transform, scale. This time, if I just wanted to eyeball it, I could drag. And I know that it will be proportional because I have this little link turned on up here in the options bar. So I can just grab this and it'll proportionally resize that. Pressing enter and then Control D to turn off my selection. And Control S to save. What do you guys think? Exactly. It's up select and then it would be deselect. See how it says Control D over here in the menu? Yep, same thing. Yep. Okay, cool. All right. My dogs are like fighting outside the door of my office. I didn't know if you guys could hear that. I could hear them. Of course they're playing right outside my office door. Okay. Let's see. All right, cool. So those are some shape. That's the rectangular and, well, we actually did the elliptical marquee and we used the quick select. So over here, we're going to do this piece of coral. Okay. So I'll zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. So this is kind of a weird shape, right? It's got some hard edges. I can definitely see the edge of the coral against the white background. You know, like, can't I, you know, I could draw around it, but that would be a difficult, you know, for a new student, that might be kind of difficult to draw around it. So what you can actually do, I'm going to show you a little trick, is I'm going to actually draw a rectangular marquee around this tool. Okay, this is kind of cool. To make a selection. So what I'm doing right now is I've drawn a rectangle around this, and I'm saying whatever I'm about to do is going to happen only within this area. Okay, now I'm going to actually go to what's called the magic wand tool. This is a really cool tool. The magic wand tool, what it does is it makes a selection based on color. It works with this tolerance up here in the options bar. So when you have the magic wand turned on, you're going to set your tolerance, right? So the default is 32. And what that means is wherever I click in my image, whatever pixel I click on, in this case, Photoshop will select every pixel that is that color and 32 shades lighter and 32 shades darker throughout the entire image. Okay. Now in this case, I'm actually going to click inside this rectangle, this square that I drew. So whatever I click on, it's going to just be picked within this area. Okay. What's really cool is up here, I'm going to come up here to the options bar and I'm going to choose subtract from selection. So actually what I'm going to do is, if you can see, here's the magic wand. You can see that little minus next to it. What I'm going to do is when I click anywhere on this white area, what Photoshop's going to do is it's going to pick that pixel, and then anything within this area, it's going to pick everything except the white color that I click on. So watch what happens. I'm going to click once, and do you see how it made the outline of the coral? See how it did that? So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to explain it again. So actually, I'll zoom out and show you something. Right now, I'm going to choose the magic wand tool, right? I'm going to go off road of the assignment. So if you're watching the lesson, that's good. Now, when you don't select anything on a layer, Photoshop thinks everything is selected. So right now, I haven't drawn a marquee around anything. So if I just I leave the 32 and I click, let's see, on this blue. Let's see what happens. Do you see how it picked everything that was blue? Okay, actually, I want to do a new selection, Control D. Okay, I'm going to pick the blue again. Okay, so it picked everything that was blue. It didn't pick the white letters. It just picked everything that was blue, Control D. If I come out here and click on the plate, do you see how it's making this weird, it's picking everything, wherever I clicked, it picked every color of brown, 32 shades lighter and 32 shades darker from where I picked, okay? By Control D. If I increase my tolerance, let's see, I'll increase it to 100, right? And now I click on the plate again. Do you see how I got a much bigger selection? So it selected more of the object, right? So the magic wand tool is really good for selecting well, I'm going to wait. You're going to see how the magic wand tool works at the end of the lesson. We're going to do something that kind of looks, it's really interesting. We're going to select all these flowers and change the colors. But the Magic Wand tool works with, it's a color-based selection tool, so whatever pixel I click on, Photoshop will look at that, and it'll pick all the same colors, 32 shades lighter and 32 shades darker. I'm using the tool a little bit differently. You're going to call me back? Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here, right? I'm going to show it again. So I'm going to constrain. I'm going to say, okay, Photoshop, I only want to deal with what's inside this square area. And if I use the Magic Wand tool, and I'm going to pick up here on the options bar, subtract from selection. So I'm making the tool work opposite the way that it normally works. What I'm going to do is wherever I click, Photoshop will pick every color within this square that's not white. Right? Because I'm going to click on a white area. So I click and it picked everything. Oops, I made a mistake. I should have changed my tolerance back to 32. Backing up. I had too high of a tolerance. When I choose the negative, the subtract, it's going to pick everything that's not white. Boom. Do you see how it got the edge of that? Okay? Kurt, you still with me? All right, cool. So now I'm just going to pick the move tool and boom, I can move that to the center of the plate. Control D to deselect, Control S to save. All right. All right, the lasso tools. These take a little bit more practice to use. These ones are a little bit harder. So the lasso tools will allow you to draw freehand or draw around irregular shapes. So I'm going to zoom in down here. Okay, and I'm gonna make this the area. Alt, zoom out a little bit. Okay. All right, so this is kind of a weird shape. So I'm going to show you, we're going to talk about these lasso tools. So I'm going to go through all three of them and show you how they all work. The lasso tool by itself, what it allows you to do is I'm going to click with my mouse, I'm going to hold my mouse down and I'm going to drag. And I'm going to do it, I'm going to exaggerate it so it doesn't look good. So I'm going to click, hold, and I just start dragging. And you see the line that's being drawn. And you see I'm not even doing a great job. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. When I come back to the end, you should see a little circle appear. I don't know why it's not appearing. Well, usually when you see the little circle, it closes that. And you can see I can draw a shape, right? But that's not a very precise selection, right? It was kind of hard. You know, I was holding my mouse. It doesn't come up right against the edges. Control D. Yeah, I was trying to show you here. I'll just do it again. I'm drawing around. When you come back to the original, you should see a little circle appear in the lower right corner, but I don't see it appearing right here. I just let go and it connected it for me. Okay, but see, that's not a very good selection, right? I would definitely need to practice, right? That would not look good. Control D. The polygonal lasso tool, this one's really good if you have a weird shape, but it has straight edges. So I'm going to show you how this one works. This one's nice. I can choose this tool, okay? This time I click, I let go of the mouse, and I'm just pulling my mouse. I don't have to hold it down, but you see how it's making a straight line? Click, 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 click. Do you see the little circle there? Do you see it popped up in the lower right corner? That's telling me I'm at the end of the selection. Boom. Okay, again, not so good. I'm kind of missing pieces over here. Okay, I could work with that, right? And that would work really well if you had something that had a lot of straight edges. Control D. Magnetic lasso. This one you're going to like. This one is kind of smart. What's going to happen is all I have to do is click one time and then I don't have to hold the mouse down. I just drag my mouse along the edge and Photoshop will find the difference in color and it will create a selection for me. So watch this. If I just go slow enough, I click one right here and I just start dragging my mouse. Okay. And you can see it's laying down the points for me. Okay. Now it's not perfect and that's okay. Right? I'm going to come in. No, it's not that I'm hesitating. It's just finding a point and it's laying it down for me. It's just kind of making its own. Yes. And now I'm here at the end. I'm going to click and watch what happens. All those points go away. And you can see I have a pretty good selection here, right? But I'm actually missing over here. And I need to include this. I didn't get some of it here. And I didn't get this piece here, right? And I need maybe these pieces. I could come in. I could zoom in. Okay. Right. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to change to the regular lasso tool. Okay. And I can click this add and subtract to these selections. So if I click the add selection right now, and then I come in here, see how there's a little plus there? All I'm going to do is almost like you're carving. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click, I'm going to hold, I'm just going to come out and grab the piece I need, let go. I'm not even closing it. And do you see how it added to it? I'm going to start inside, kind of come out, grab it, and come in. And it grabs that piece, right? Okay. And if I really wanted to get super fancy, okay, right? Now, what if I was like, oh, okay, I don't want that, right? If I needed to get rid of that piece, I could come over up here to the options bar, do subtract, and I could do it the opposite way. See how there's a little minus in the lower corner? I can just click up here, cross it, the line where I feel it looks good, kind of just eyeball it, come up, and see how it got rid of that? That takes a lot of practice, okay? It takes a lot of practice. A lot of students hesitate to use the Marquee tools because it does take a lot of practice. But, with practice comes perfection. So it really just depends on what you're trying to select. Every image is different, and so you have to figure out what tool am I going to use. Am I using a hammer? Am I using a chisel? Am I using am I going to use a screwdriver? Am I going to use an electric drill? Right? You want to make sure that you're using the right tool for the job, and sometimes you use a combination of tools. All right, I'm going to choose my move tool, and I'm going to come out here, and I can place the muscle on the plate. While it's still selected, I can do some transformations. I can go edit, transform, rotate, and then you see you get the bound, and I can kind of rotate this guy around if I wanted to, right? I don't know why I would do that, but I can. I could also come up here to edit, transform, flip horizontal, right? That's a nice thing to do, right? So you can kind of get a mirror image of something, right? And then I just have to press enter to set the transformation and Control D to turn off the selection. Okay, so the last one, you get to choose how you want to select it. So I know that, Kurt, you're following along. What tool do you think you're going to use to make this selection over here for this Nautilus down here? Did you do the magnetic? Yeah, it works pretty good, right? Now, let me just show you what would happen if I did the quick select. You'd be like, well, I can do quick select, right? These are some hard edges. Watch what happens when I just click and drag. Do you see how it picked most of the Nautilus, right? But it also got this piece of the carpet, I guess, down here, or whatever this background is, right? It actually got some of the stuff I didn't want. So you could come in and you could now switch to the lasso tool, right? And I have subtract turned on, so I could come in here and I could kind of subtract that, right? Oh, I didn't do very good, right? Maybe I'll really get rid of that, right? Okay, so obviously I'm missing a piece, so I could keep going back and forth. Okay, now I need to add more, right? Not so great. And then I would come in here and do the same thing. If I do Control D, that one's, that tool wasn't working for me, right? But the magnetic lasso, for sure, I think that's a really good one. I'm just going to click right here and just start dragging. Oops, and I got a little bit extra. That's okay. No worries. I can come in. Whoops. Not so great. Whoops. And you can also always click if you want to set a point. So that looks pretty good. And then I can come in with my lasso tool and so I'm going to add to the selection here. And I'm not going to make it perfect because I'm not going to grade myself, right? Okay. And I want to get rid of this, so I'm going to change this to subtract. And so I'm going to come in and kind of shave that off. It's not too bad. Okay, this is bothering me. This is not great. Now, this is where you might say, a stylus would be very helpful. If you're used to using a stylus with like a tablet, you know, then you're holding a pen, or it's like holding a pen or a pencil, and you have more control over that. So that's you know, using a stylus to make selections like this is definitely how, you know, professionals work in the industry. But we're you know, we're in a 100 level class. Like, this is your first class, so we just start with the mouse. All right, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, pick my move tool, and place this guy right here. All right, and then Control D. So that's pretty good, not bad. Okay, so, and I'm going to save my file. I haven't done that in a while. All right, so, and I actually modified the assignment this afternoon. So Ralph, make sure you download a new copy of the instructions, because I just updated it. I found something in there that I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier. So now what I want to do is I want you to clean up this image, right? Like, this doesn't look good. I want to get rid of all these like leftover pieces. So what I can do is I can choose the brush tool, okay? And I can come in and I can choose under general brushes, I'm going to choose a hard round brush, and I'm going to set the size to 80 pixels. Sorry, I was lost myself in the instructions. Hard round brush, and then and I'm going to set the hardness to 100. Okay, and now I'm going to pick the foreground color, because what's happening is the tools, you always have, it's like a little palette. You have colors to work with, and so right now the paintbrush tool will use whatever is in this swatch. Well, I want to match it to the background, so if I click this foreground swatch, it opens up the color picker. Okay, and you guys learned this from the very first assignment. I could come right out here and I could just sample the white. Boom, it actually picked the white. I click OK, it loaded that color right here, and now I can come with my brush and I can just paint over these, right? So I can just fill this in, these cut out pieces, with the white, right? If I wanted a bigger brush, I can actually increase the size by clicking the right square bracket on my keyboard, because I, you know, want to do less strokes, right? Yep, the right square bracket makes it big. The left square bracket makes it small, right? So I'm just painting with the white on my keyboard. Yep. I could have also just come up here and drag the slider. I could have done that, right? You know, there's a lot of different ways to do things. Okay. So yeah, it's below the curly brackets. Yep. Okay, so now what I want you to do is, on this layer, we're just going to put a picture frame around it. So with the practice 1 layer selected, I can go to layer styles and choose stroke, and here we go. And I want you to set it to be, so whatever, just so you guys know, whatever the last thing you used in Photoshop, in this case, I don't know why I have a yellow 104 pixel stroke, but that was the last thing I did. So that's why mine loads up that way. So I actually want it to be 15 pixels, and I want the position to be inside, and fill type color. And you can pick any color you like. Maybe I'm going to pick this orange. Why not? Click OK. Boom, I have a nice little outline, and you can see here is the effect that's applied to that layer. Okay. Save. Right, but I would encourage you not to do the Control-Alt-Shift every time, because once you start to get your Photoshop environment set up the way you like, you want to be able to always access the tools. Now, I have this weird like little dot here. Do you guys see that? That means that's an area I didn't paint over with the white, right? That's why that orange stroke was added to it, because it found left like a hole. So I can just come in here with my brush tool that's still loaded with white and paint over that and get rid of it. Okay. And I have that instruction. I said step 57, if any stroke color appears, it just means you need to paint over that edges. All right, something advanced. This is the cool part. All right, I'm going to turn off the practice 1 layer. I'm going to turn on the practice 2 layer, and I'm going to select the practice 2 layer. I'm going to now work with a different picture. I have 2 different pictures in this one file. And it's just for learning, you know, just for teaching purposes. And I'm going to hide my panel just so we can see it. So what the goal is I want to pick all the blue flowers, and I want to change the blue flowers to a different color. I want to change the violets to green or purple or orange or any other color other than this. So, you know, what tool would you use to do that, right? Would you come in here with your lasso tool and draw tiny little selections around each flower? No way, right? That's going to be a lot of work, right? There's definitely an easier way to do it, and that is going to be with the magic wand tool. So watch this. I'm going to pick the magic wand tool, and I'm going to make sure the tolerance is 32. And I'm going to make sure that I have add to selection. So what's really nice is I'm going to choose the add to selection on the options bar. That means everywhere I click, it keeps adding to the selection. So I'm just going to click on one of the blue flowers, and you can see it picked. Okay, I picked some of the blue, and I'm going to come over here and pick a little bit more blue, right? And I'm going to come over here and pick a little bit more blue. So I've made, you know, some of the blue is selected, right? So I'm loading that in, like I'm telling Photoshop, hey, here's this blue. Right? Now, if I come up here to the select and choose select, correct. It knows, like wherever I clicked, it was like whatever I clicked on, I'll go back in history, I will undo it. Right, so watch, I'll do it again. So I click right here, and what Photoshop did was it picked every shade of that pixel, 32 shades lighter and darker, until it doesn't see it anymore. That's why it stops here. Okay, so now I'm going to pick, oh, I didn't want to do that. I didn't click on a blue. Click a blue, click a blue, click a blue, right? And so I got some blue, but I want to get all the blue. So here's an easy way to do it. You're going to go select, similar. Look what happened. I heard the whoa. It was similar, right? So because I had a few selections loaded, right, in the window, Photoshop, I said select similar. Photoshop went out and said, oh, well, I'll find everything that's similar to what you already have selected. And then if I come up and I go select grow, watch what happens. It just pulls a little bit more of that blue in, right? I'm getting more of it, and I've got almost all of it, right? Maybe I'm going to do select grow one more time, right? Okay. Oh, that's a little too much. I don't want this up here. That's a little too much. So I'm going to do a Control Z and just undo it once. So maybe only one grow. Z as in zebra. Control, yep. So now I have this selection, right? You can see all the blue, pretty much all the blue is selected. So I'm going to go to my layers. You want to make sure practice 2 layer is selected, and I'm going to add what's called an adjustment layer. So you could go to Window, Adjustments. I already have it turned on over here, and I'm going to add what's called a hue saturation. Okay, so I'm going to click this button, and I'm going to go back to, and I'm just going to show you what it did was it added this layer on top of it. So this hue saturation layer is now on top of the practice 2. This is what we call a mask. We're going to learn about that later, but what it's happening is now everything I'm about to change is with just that whole selection I had before. I can come to, I can turn on colorize, and then look at that. Do you see how it's changing all of the color? So if I come in here, I turn off this adjustment layer, there's the original blue. And then because I built a selection and then I had the active selection, I added this adjustment layer. It went ahead and it created what's called a mask. And then it's like, okay, I can change just the pixels in that area. Were you able to do it on your end, Kurt? Yep. So there you go. So the reason I show that is because not next week, but the week after, you guys are going to have your first applied project where you have to remove a background and put something behind it. And that's, I give you the picture to start with. And so, you know, an easy way to remove a large portion of the background, you could use this skill here, and then you might come in and you might use the eraser, like a brush, an eraser brush, and actually erase pixels. So more to come. But don't remember what we did here, because this is going to help you with an upcoming assignment. What do you guys think? Questions? Okay, so I took you almost the whole hour, right? So we went ahead and did this. Kurt, if you finish it, you can just go ahead and save it, turn it in. You're going to get 100%. Anybody who does it along with me, you know, but really, if you do the assignment, just practicing through the assignment, you should earn all the points, unless you had the one mistake students do make on this assignment. If somebody out there is watching this after the fact, is they wind up having the wrong layer selected, and they wind up placing their hue saturation layer above the practice one layer instead, like they didn't do it correctly. So that's one thing I do see that students do. So you just want to make sure that you have the correct layer selected before you add that hue saturation layer. Okay, so after you completed this assignment, you will see back in Canvas, there is this next assignment. So this is the one I just did. So there's one called Assignment Selection Practice. This is another review of just what you learned. In fact, it should not take you very long to complete it. And what you're going to do is I give you a starter file with all these pieces surrounding the book. You're going to cut each piece out and place it in a similar fashion and make the border, just like I showed you, right? So you actually, I have instructions, and there's a start file, so I'll show you what the start file looks like. This is also due Saturday. So this is another practice, right? So the one I just ran you through, and then once you complete that, you're going to do this one. So you have two of them back to back. That's how important selections are. So you see, I give you different shapes, and you're going to cut them out using any tools you want, okay, whatever I taught you, and you're going to place it in a similar layout like this, and then you're going to add the border, and all that is in the instructions here. What do you guys think? What? Correct. Yeah. And in fact, so I don't know if you guys saw, I posted an announcement in the classroom today showing a video of the first version of Photoshop, and how it worked. And so I started using it in around 1994, like version 3, version 4 was when I first started using it. And back in the day, there was no magic wand tool. There was only the lasso tool, and no, these two didn't exist. And we didn't have this options bar up here, so we actually had to use keyboard shortcuts to do that. So the way, and they still work. They're still part of the part of it. So what I would do is you would draw your lasso, right? So I'm drawing, this is really bad, right? Okay, right? And so what I used to do was, we never had this up here. We just had selection. So then you had to come in and you had to hold the shift key down, right? And that turns on the add to selection piece. Oops, right? And then the alt key is the subtract. So you can do those same effects. Oops, I don't want that. I want to add. You can do the same effects with keyboard shortcuts, right? Those are legacy. That's how it worked back in the day when I first started learning. But now you have this option bar, add and subtract. You can just keep going back and forth. This one is pretty cool. This is like what's left over. I forget what it's called. Intersect. Yeah. So you can make a selection and then draw another selection with this one selected, with this turned on, and whatever's common between the two is what's left over. So you can do, there's just so many things you can do with it. There's no way I could cover every single thing you can do. What you want to know is that you want to know how to select pixels on a layer, right? And you're going to have many layers, and you're going to be selecting things and moving them and changing them, and you have a bunch of different tools to do that. And so this is an introduction to that. All right, so I am going to go ahead and pull us back to here, and I'm going to come here. All right, so that's everything I had for this evening. Do you guys have any questions about anything? You're welcome, Kurt. I'll look for your stuff to be turned in. Let me know if you have any questions. Ralph, are you good? Well, sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. And what I would tell you, Ralph, is to just take it piece by piece. Try not to be overwhelmed, right? Just focus on what's in front of you, and just always easier said than done. It's easy for me to give the advice. When I'm sitting where you're sitting, I'm exactly the same way. I get it. Of course, you can do it. Yeah, practice. Practice, practice. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and sign off and end the session then, and you just let me know what questions you have. All right, Ralph, you're welcome. Have a good evening. Bye.